So, 2 albums in less than 12 months. This woman is insane. Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome to the channel. I am Gabriel Fast. I do claim to be the wannabe critic. Really fast. I know I hate doing this because every other YouTuber does it. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing. If you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell, you'll be notified every time I upload. I do music reviews here, and it would mean the world if you would, subscribe and stick around. Okay, Taylor Swift released Folklore. How long has it been? 6 or 7 months ago now at this point, and here we are now with a follow-up. She says it's now a sister record to that record, Evermore. Now, whenever Folklore came out, I was pretty high on it. You can check out my review. I'll leave it in the link above here. Now, let me back up just a little bit. I don't love Taylor Swift. I like Taylor Swift. I mean, I'm not a Swiftie, as some people, would call it, but I do like her music. I was a big fan of 1989. I thought it was a very good pop record, whenever it came out. I wasn't a huge fan of the one that followed. Reputation wasn't really my cup of tea. But at the end of the day, musicians really should be making music for themselves first and not necessarily be making them just for their audience, in my opinion. I think that does kind of come part of, the art. As someone who does like to make music, it is a bonus whenever you make something that someone else likes. That being said, I'm not Taylor Swift, and, the vast majority of the living she has made has been from making music for other people. But, I don't know, Folklore just seemed like a really deeply personal album. Reputation, it seemed like she had a lot to prove. 1989 seemed like there was, kind of a breakaway from, the country pop that she had kind of been in the past, and just kind of went into, the full swing of pop, basically, and the records to follow. That being said, whenever Folklore came out, I was surprised. I was surprised to see such kind of a down-to-earth and deep, kind of such a down-to-earth, and like I said before, really a personal album is what it felt like. It really felt like that was for her. I know, the people she usually writes with, as long as the dude from the National, they were the ones who worked on Folklore. And apparently, basically the story with this album was they just didn't stop writing songs. They couldn't stop writing songs. Taylor Swift talks about how whenever she's into a project, usually she moves on from that project to kind of redefine the next one. And I think you can kind of see that with the projects in the past, all the way from her earlier things. Really, I think Red kind of was the evolution of her true pop transformation. On Red, you had hints of the pop in there, and kind of the country stuff still kind of lingered, and kind of a little bit of an indie type vibe to it as well. Then in 1989, she went full pop, as I said before, and then the subsequent projects after that ended up being different things entirely. So now by the time we get to Folklore and Evermore, we have basically, in not so many words, it really feels like a double album that pretty much just got released 6 or 7 months apart. And that's not a bad thing. I don't know what I was really expecting whenever I went into this album. I mean, whenever she said it was a sister record and she dropped it as a surprise, it does kind of feel like maybe things, usually I think, people will release a B-sides type album or something like that to get more content out there, get more music out there and things like that. But in this case, I guess they just kept writing songs. Now, that leads me to believe, I don't know all the ins and outs, I don't know the facts, but that leads me to believe that, if they wrote all these songs all at one time, maybe these were the ones that didn't necessarily make the cut the first time. And I don't know that to be a fact, but whenever you listen to this album, it kind of feels like that to me. And I'm not bashing the album. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying I don't like it, because I do, but it does just feel pretty much exactly the same as what, Folklore did. There's a slight irritation, I think, whenever she tries to go towards the more mature tone with some of the lyrics. And I understand, like I said before, this music should be deeply personal to her, but at times it feels a little forced. I gotta say, all the songs that basically just feature Taylor herself outside of the featured artists that are on there feel a little samey to me. It feels pretty much just like regurgitated scraps of what was left over from Folklore being put into this album. That doesn't mean it's not good. It just, I don't know. In a way, it kind of makes Folklore seem less special. I just have to ask the question, if both of these albums were ready at the same time and they were recorded at the same time, even if you said you wanted to stop at all the songs you had and you kept on recording songs, why not just take those and make it a double album and make it all kind of one release altogether? You know what I mean? In a way, it just feels like another way to just spend, to make another couple $1 million on vinyl pre-orders, special vinyl pre-orders that took 3 or 4 months to get here. Not mad mad at all about that one. Yes, me and Emma bought Folklore on vinyl because it's a good album. It really is. I really enjoyed it. I think it's probably Taylor Swift's best album outside of 1989 and Red. Yes, I said it. That being said, that was a lot of information I just said. I liked this project. I liked Evermore. I enjoyed it. I thought it was nice, easygoing music. You know, I think Taylor really is trying to express herself in a way that makes sense to her with all these other musicians. All the other musicians are really talented. The track Evermore, which is the last track on the album, does feel special. Features, you know, Bon Iver, however you want to say it. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that vibe. In terms of like standout, like, you know, what's the best part of the album? I would say the front half of the album speaks to me more. And, you know, basically on iTunes, all of the starred songs are pretty much on the front half of the album. There's songs in the middle that kind of get lost in a way and kind of get muddled, in my opinion, because the first half is pretty good. Like I said before, there's parts in the middle where it just kind of feels like basically regurgitated things that we heard on the first record. All in all, I did enjoy it. I don't think it cheapens Folklore in a way. You know, I said that earlier. I mean, it feels like it does, but realistically, I think I was just trying to rationalize a way to say I'm irritated that both of these weren't released at the same time, because I feel like if you had a double album released and you're wanting to push those vinyl sales, first of all, we're going to pay it anyways to get it because the Folklore was awesome. And it really feels like, you know, if you listen to these albums back to back, it feels like a story, like a really coherent story is being told, and different narratives and things that Taylor was going through are being pushed on these albums. And I enjoy that. I think that there's a lot of scraps on Folklore. I think there's a lot of scraps on this album. I think if you take those scraps away, you have like a really solid double album that just got released kind of, you know, spaced apart 6-7 months. I did enjoy it. I want to know what you thought, but as far as the score goes, I'm going to have to go with a 7.5 out of 10. Did you like it? Let me know down in the comments below. Let me know if you're a Swiftie. I want to know. I don't want to get any hate. I'm not trying to hate on Taylor. I like Taylor. I think she's talented. And that's another thing too, is all the musicians did great on this record. All the musicians performed well. Taylor has a beautiful voice. I think they all articulated things in the best way they possibly could for whatever they were doing. I mean, every single track that has a feature on it, whether it be Bon Iver or the dude from The National, I mean, it's all good in my opinion. I think it all fits well, and it seems to be a pretty good listen. But it does feel just like more of the same of what we got in Folklore, and there's just not a lot more that's special or different about it. It feels like a double album. Whatever possessed you to check out the podcast or the YouTube channel today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it, you know, if you would consider subscribing. As you can tell, it's not just me here anymore. I mean, I do stuff by myself, but the podcast is going to reside here from now on, you know, in video form. So if you want to see more content, if you want to be notified, you know, every time we post something, whether it be a clip, a podcast, a review, an interview, whatever it may be, if it's gaming stuff, make sure you click that bell and hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic.